over again. For those that are just joining us, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We really appreciate it. My name is Chantel Smith. I'm the Assistant Director of Recruitment and Inclusive Communities within the Honors College at UMD. We just want to say congratulations again on your acceptance to UMD. We're so excited for you guys. So this week, we will be offering you an opportunity to hear from the staff and students who represent our 8 unique programs. We really hope that this helps you as you determine which of our programs you're more interested in as you're completing your program preferencing form, which is due February 19th. Right now, we'll be focusing on our Design, Cultures, and Creativity program. And so while we encourage you to send in your questions through the Q&A feature, we kindly ask that you hold off until the end, since there's a chance your questions may be addressed during the presentation. And then we'll open it up to Q&A once the presentation is over. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and pass the mic over so you can hear more about Design, Cultures, and Creativity.
Thank you so much, Chantel. Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Jessica Liu. I'm the Associate Director of the Design, Cultures, and Creativity program. I'll give you a little more intro to myself in just a minute, but I do want to acknowledge some other DCC folks here in the room. One of the folks here is actually our director, Damon Pfister. He's going to go ahead and wave to you on the screen right now. He's going to hang out during this little chat tonight. He's also going to be fielding some of your questions in the chat. So of course you can hang on to them later and we will have a conversation. But if there's something really burning and you want to use the chat while I'm speaking, Damon might be able to get you a quick answer. Our honors ambassadors are here as well. I'm going to save their intros for a little later. I'm going to let them introduce themselves after I'm done speaking a little bit about the program. Okay, so welcome all of you. I'm going to echo Chantel's congratulations on being offered admission to the University of Maryland, but of course the Honors College in particular. And we do love these admissions events because it's a chance to tell you a little bit about DCC so you can really get a sense for whether or not this program and this unique community is going to be a good fit for you. So a little bit of background about myself. I've actually been at the University of Maryland since 2011. So I'm in my 13th year teaching here, working with undergraduates. But actually, I went to college in a small private liberal arts university in Pennsylvania called Villanova University. And very different from University of Maryland in size, in particular, in number of students. So I've had the experience of going to graduate school at a large research institution like Maryland, teaching at a large research institution like Maryland, and also going to undergraduate at a small liberal arts college. And when I was at Villanova, I worked in admissions and I gave tours. And ever since then, I thought it was really, really important to help high school seniors, especially, not go to the college where I was, whether at Villanova or now University of Maryland, but to really figure out where was going to be the right place for them to thrive. So in the interest of full transparency, we just want to share that with you. Our goal is just to give you as much information as possible. We promise to be as honest and as forthcoming as we can because we want you to end up in the right place for you. If that's DCC, that's fantastic. And if it's not DCC, that's also okay. We just hope you'll end up in a place that is nourishing and supportive and the right environment you need to be in to thrive and do well and to grow over the next 4, 5, however many years. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get started with you. We do have some slides here. I'm going to do some arranging now that my screen is shared, just so I make sure I don't miss any of your wonderful faces or anything in the chat while I'm talking. But like I said, our director Damon's going to help you out if you have any burning questions. Okay. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about DCC because you might be a little overwhelmed, especially if you've been hanging already out on this chat all tonight. You've already heard about Honors Humanities. You might be interested in some of the other living learning programs, and you might be overwhelmed trying to choose. Some of the living learning programs are very straightforward with how they identify and define themselves. One of the running jokes about DCC sometimes is that even if you've gone through the program, it's still a hard program to define. That's actually something we really, really pride ourselves on. But we have actually taken a stab at trying to clearly define who it is we are on this campus, especially in comparison or in relation to the other living learning programs. And if I were to say it simply, we are the LLP where the makers are, where the creatives are. And this is something we have strived really hard over the past few years to really hone and foster within our community. We can't define ourselves like some of the other programs can in terms of one college or one major. We draw students from all majors across campus, all colleges across campus. So in terms of background, interests, academics, we are incredibly diverse. And the thing that binds all DCC students together is this creative impulse, this inspiration to make, to build, to create. And usually one of the things I love most about DCC students, it is not without purpose. So our DCC students are creatives, they're makers, they're artists, they're builders, they're tinkerers, and they have this strong urge to make the world a better place. Not in a passive way, not in a way they're just expecting that the hope will be better, the world will be better one day, but they're actively trying to make it so. Okay, so they use their time in DCC and more broadly at the university to seek out the skills and the experiences they need to enter the world after university and change it for the better. It's a really inspiring group of students to be among every single day, to work and learn and teach alongside. And that's the only thing I think you could really identify as a common thread. DCC students are all over the map. I say it with so much affection. We're a totally weird bunch, okay? We are a stone cold pack of weirdos in DCC, and we love that, right? They, like I said, very diverse in major, interests, extracurriculars. We speak a bunch of different languages in DCC, a lot of different religious, cultural backgrounds as well. And we really pride ourselves on being a really dynamic, vibrant community in that way, okay? So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the program itself. For some of you, this might be a little boring or overwhelming even to think about. But from a purely academic perspective, I do want to kind of chart out some of the broad strokes of our actual curriculum, because we are a 2-year program, and that is something that may be important for you to consider depending on your academic situation. A lot of honor students come into the university with a lot of credits. Some of you might already technically be considered sophomores by the time you show up as a first-year student, just based on AP credits and stuff like that, or transfer credits from a community college or something. We are a 2-year program, which does free up your junior and senior year for other pursuits. You move on to other academic or extracurricular areas of exploration. So we try to design a program that fits in well with a standard 4 or 5-year college experience. If you are entering the university with a plan to graduate in fewer years, 2 or 3, you might find that this 2-year sequence may present some complications, right? But if you're concerned about your specific situation, we encourage you to reach out to us. But if you were looking ahead to a traditional 4 or 5-year university path, DCC should slot right in no matter what your major is. Also, because we've designed our courses to satisfy gen ed requirements that you're usually trying to knock out your first couple years anyway. So if you'll bear with me, I'll talk to you through the 2 years that you would spend in DCC's courses. The first thing I'll say is that the curriculum is intentionally designed to move you from broad exploration in different concepts, topics, and methods relating to design, culture, and creativity, move you more narrow into deeper exploration of topics and concepts, then move on to hands-on skill building, until finally at the end of the program, you're doing an autonomous, independent capstone project entirely of your own design, okay? So if you were to join DCC, you would come here during your first year as a freshman, first-year student, and the first class you would take in our program is HDCC 105. Our director, Damon, is the one that's going to teach that class for you next fall if you're with us. It's an introduction to design, cultures, and creativity, and it's your only large class in DCC. That is the class in which you will be with every other first-year DCC student. So usually anywhere between 60 to 70 DCC students join us each year. We put you all together, so not only do you kind of start on the same page, broadly exploring concepts related to design, culture, and creativity, but also to build your community. It's a chance for you to get to know all the other first-year DCC students, take the same class together. Most of you live together as well in the dorm, Prince Frederick Hall. I think I'm supposed to technically call it a residence hall. Sorry. You live together in Prince Frederick Hall. You come downstairs on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 11 to 12:15 and take HDCC 105 together. So it's a way for you to enter the academic curriculum of DCC while also engaging in the social community life of the program as well. Okay. Your second semester in the spring of year one, you move on to your first small seminar in DCC. HDCC 106 courses all are different every single year. So DCC has the benefit of drawing faculty from all across campus. We choose our faculty anew each year. Sometimes faculty return to us for a few years in a row. Sometimes we get brand new faculty. We try to choose faculty with different expertise and backgrounds that meet the needs of the class at that time. So each first year cohort that comes into our program is different. Everyone has different interests and passions and skills they want to learn. We do our best to pay attention to what it is you're interested in. And then we try to find faculty on campus that can teach you in those areas, and we bring them into the program to teach classes. So 106, I can't tell you exactly which seminars will be available for you next year, but I can promise you we do our best to give you always have at least 5 options for 106. So you'll choose from 1 of 5 different options for that seminar. This semester, there are classes in music media. There's class in crowdsourcing and data work. There's a class in language philosophy and programming. So the classes change all the time. And our students find a topic that resonates strongly with them, and they take a small seminar. Okay. And again, that's a deep dive into a more narrow focused topic related to design, cultures, and creativity. At the end of your first year, you have a nice long summer break. You come back as a sophomore in your second year, and that is when you continue your DCC curriculum in a couple ways. First, you're going to take a 3-credit class called HDCC 208. It's your second seminar. This is the one that, again, is pretty tightly focused on a specific topic or concept, but much more hands-on. Lots of skill work. You're learning methods and how to create things and do things. So it's a lot more applied. Okay. And the second class you'll take in your fall semester of year 2 is a capstone proposal course. So it's 1 credit. So it's a much lighter load than a 3-credit class. And it's where you learn how to propose persuasively propose an independent project. So it sets you up for that big capstone at the end of your DCC experience. You learn how to put together a robust project proposal, everything from figuring out how to articulate your idea to figuring out the budget for it, a timeline to execute the project, and thinking about the significance of the project in the world and who your audience is. Okay. And finally, you wrap up DCC in the spring of your sophomore year with the capstone experience. There's a class attached to it, HDCC 209. You get 3 credits for doing an independent project entirely of your own design and making. You can do almost anything you want. I'll talk a little bit more about capstone here in a minute, right? It's something you don't have to worry about right now. Some of you might be immediately excited about the thought of being able to do anything you want and get academic credit for it. And also to do it with the support of community like DCC. And some of you, it might immediately spark anxiety and you're going to be nervous about coming in and are having a project ready to go. I promise you, you'll have plenty of time. And it's something we strongly, strongly reinforce is a 1-semester project. Happens spring of your sophomore year. So there's no need to even begin to start now, not even think about it. All right, I'll talk more about capstone in a second. In the bottom right-hand corner of your screen that you'll see is there's one last little piece of the curriculum. We make it as flexible as possible. There's 3 last credits to fill out the remainder of DCC, and you have options to do that. We try to make it flexible so that you can make DCC work with the rest of your academic kind of demands, no matter what your major is. So whether you want to study abroad, whether you want to get an academic internship, whether you want to do an independent study with us, or whether you want to find a university advanced class, like a 300 or 400 level class that you think also strongly ties back to your DCC curriculum, all those would satisfy your final 3 credits. So it's a way for you to kind of take control of that last piece of your DCC curriculum in a way that makes sense for you. All of those options we fully support as valid ways of taking DCC back out into the world and taking what you learn in the program and making it kind of fit your life and your interests and your studies. Okay. Like I said, I'll tell you a little bit more about Capstone. So the Capstone Project experience is happening right now for our second year students, our sophomores. We name all of our DCC cohorts according to the Greek alphabet. Our second years right now are the new class. And so the new class who just began their second semester of their sophomore year are at the beginning stages of their capstone. So they have the next 3 months, February, March, and April, to work on their projects. And at the start of May, it's on the last day of classes, on May 9th this year, they will present their capstone projects. It's an annual event. It's the biggest event of the season. It's not just a chance for them to present their projects. It's a big celebration for DCC at the end of the year for everybody in our community, first and second year students, all our staff and faculty. But the main event, of course, is our second year students showing off their capstones. So I'll say a little bit more about capstone now. Like I said, you can do anything you want. If you're curious and you want to chat with us, me or Damon or any of our alumni about their capstone projects, we actually have some capstone award winners here in the room. So you might want to ask Bryant a little bit later about his capstone. Okay. But our students take on a variety of different projects, ranging from designing apps, hosting podcasts, planning events on campus, launching initiatives with service organizations or community groups in the local area. People do a lot of art. We've had beautiful half documentary, half dance film. You can follow your creative passions and you learn a lot in the process of how you work, especially without close supervision, without a professor telling you exactly what to do and what steps to follow. You learn what happens when you're driven by your own creative passion, and those creative passions kind of encounter inevitable conflicts or obstacles in the world, like lots of stress and big events in your personal life and juggling your other classes and commitments. And it prepares you for your life ahead when you won't always have someone telling you exactly what to do, when you still want to nurture the creative sides of yourself, when you still want to create and make and build and contribute to the world without someone dictating how to do that. So we love to give you that experience by your sophomore year of college. It's something some people never learn how to do. It's something we hope you carry forward into applications to graduate school or on interviews, or when you're just thinking about the kind of life you want to have and want to build for yourself. So Capstone for us is a really beautiful experience. We try to frame it in such a way that students are encouraged to see it not as an assignment for school, right? But a real opportunity to do something for themselves and to learn about themselves along the way. And a lot of students also take it as a chance to give back to a community or serve a community or amplify a community that they deeply care about. Some students just take it as a way to escape from other stress or pressures in their academic life or in their personal life, channeling, certain fears or anxieties or passions into something that they create and kind of offer to the world. So Capstone can be a really, really beautiful thing. We love it for a lot of reasons in DCC, but I think most of all because we get to see our students just in their most raw, authentic form, because they take something inside of themselves, translate it into something the rest of the world can see. So it's a beautiful way to end 2 years in DCC. And for us, among the staff and faculty, a beautiful way to just end every academic year is celebrating our students. Okay, so I'm sure there might be more questions about Capstone later. We're happy to address those for you. But in addition to being an academic program, okay, so of course it's in the Honors College. There are certain academic standards that are expected of honor students. There are certain things that you already demonstrated in high school that already got you into the Honors College in the first place. But for us, DCC is so much more than an academic program. It's deeply important to us that DCC is intentionally built and maintained community. And this is something our honors ambassadors might be able to speak to from their own perspective and their experiences in a little bit here. But from our perspective as staff, for Damon and I, there's a few choices that we have made every day in how we run this program, the events we plan, the faculty we try to bring in, that is driven by our recognition that DCC offers something to first year students that's really intangible. It doesn't show up on a transcript. It's more about speaking to who you are at this very particular time in your life, and what you need in terms of your well-being, what you need in terms of support. Things like I said, will help you thrive, okay? And I'm not going to say that our community works for every single person. That's just not something we could ever guarantee. It's not going to be the right fit for everybody, right? But we do try to make sure it's a good, safe fit for as many people as possible. So when we think about our community, there's a few things that we try to really make sure we are either creating or kind of offering for you. The first thing is an accessible entry point into what is ultimately a very large university. I was here for the last few minutes of the last chat, and I know the honors humanities folks said this. I mean, Maryland's a big school. It's a large research institution, and that comes with a lot of really great resources and opportunities, that smaller schools don't offer, right? But for some people, it's very overwhelming. Like I said, I went to a small liberal arts school for undergrad. And when I first came to Maryland for graduate school, it was hard to wrap my mind around just how many minutes it takes to walk from one part of campus to the other. The students here now will tell you they're really huffing and puffing sometimes to get from one class to another in 15 minutes. You kind of got to get out of their way. That's why they ride the scooters so much on these sidewalks. Okay. But it's a big campus, and it's a big campus full with a lot of people. And socially, that can be really tough your first year. As excited as you are, it's scary and it's daunting. And this might be a very personal thing, but some of you might be able to relate. One of the hardest feelings in the entire world is feeling lonely when you're in a crowd. It just can feel really icky or really sad. You're surrounded by people, 30,000 people, and you feel like you don't know anybody, or you feel like you know people, but you haven't connected with them yet. DCC brings in only 60 to 70 students a year. We're one of the smaller living learning programs, and we've chosen to stay small because we think that that size gives you an accessible entry point so that you can kind of get your feet wet socially, right? And you have this close-knit community that you're a part of, as you also then have the benefit of being able to kind of spread your wings and meet lots of people, endless amounts of people. All these extra other clubs and organizations you can join are always still there for you, but you also have this kind of home to come back to. And it's kind of your gentle on-ramp for some people into what is kind of a new world, okay? Our previous director actually was very fond of saying that DCC is a program that can give you that liberal arts kind of community or environment, while at the same time giving you the benefit of the Research One public university with all its kind of bells and whistles, okay? The second thing we hope our community gives to you, which is something we've really tried to foster, is that it's a little bit of a breath of fresh air, okay? We're not going to pretend that as an honor student, you all are not often very overextended. You guys major in majors that sound terrifying to me. I've seen your homework, and I don't understand it. It's like in a different language, okay? And we hear a lot about how stressful some of your majors can be. Some of you wind up double majoring. We've had triple majors in DCC before, right? And a lot of your academic life might be really stressful. A lot of your university life might be really stressful. For some of you, DCC ultimately might become a little bit of an escape, a little bit of a release, a place where you can kind of go and breathe. Your classes in DCC are going to be different than the classes in your major. They're designed to be different. The teachers sign on to kind of a teaching philosophy we have. We give very few exams and quizzes. Very, very rare to have exams or quizzes in DCC courses, because we approach learning differently. We really value experimentation. We value messiness. We value revision. So not this black and white, right and wrong, but it's a place to be creative. It's a place to be making, and you can't make if you're focused on perfection all the time, right? And so for a lot of people, the DCC community is a place where you get to feel different, you get to breathe a little differently, you get to rest, and you get to kind of pace your learning and pace your life in a way that is a lot different than other areas of the university, which is something we pride ourselves on. Okay? The third thing in terms of our community is we try to give you opportunities for mentorship. So because you're in a big university, a lot of your classes as a first year, second year student are big, right? You're taking a lot of gen eds where you're sitting in big lecture halls. You might break out into discussion classes and stuff like that, but sometimes you feel like a face lost in the crowd, not just socially, but when it comes to finding mentors, faculty members, researchers, right, that know you. And you might not be worried about this right now, but you might think even back when in high school had to have letters of recommendation, you're going to need those again later. And in college, sometimes it's harder because you feel like your professors don't know you, right? And it's time to apply for a grant or grad school or an internship or law school or whatever. And you feel like no one can speak to who you are. In DCC, we get to know you very well. So Damon and I are the director, the associate director. We only have 60 to 70 new students a year. That might sound like a lot to you, but in the university context, that's actually, we're very privileged to have that few students in our program. So if you allow us the opportunity to get to know you, we actually get to know you quite well. There's lots of opportunities, whether at community events or if you run for our student council, right? Or if you teach workshops with us. Both Dame and I also host student hours every single week where you can just book some time and come chat. I will say there's quite a few folks that I see in my student hours, and we don't talk about anything related to school. I get to hear about your lives, and I get to hear about, your breakups and fights you're having with your roommates and your gymkhana shows and what events you're participating in on campus, all sorts of stuff. Okay. And so we get to know you in a way that I think we're really lucky, right, to get to know you as kind of a whole person. So when it comes time where you need to tap somebody to kind of give you some advice or guidance about something you don't really know anything about, whether it's professional or academic, we're there for you. And that's something you might not get if you don't have this honors college environment, or in particular a DCC environment that's nice and small, very tight knit. Okay. And then the last thing about our community that we worked really, really hard to cultivate is giving you this chance to feel like you belong, right? To build a network, to build a kind of social bonds in an environment that's actually very interdisciplinary, very diverse in terms of backgrounds, boundaries, interests. Like I said, our students come from a lot of different majors. And that's really helpful, one, from like an intellectual standpoint, so you're not someone who is only taking classes with people in, for example, computer science, right? Or engineering, or information science, right? And if you only are friends with people in those majors, you only think in that way, and that way the major trains you to teach or to think. Whereas if you're in a DCC community and your roommate is an art history major and you're an engineer, and then right next door there's a women's gender and sexuality studies major, and then a dance major, all of a sudden you're surrounded by people who all think differently than you. And that changes the way you think. We believe it makes you a better person, frankly. It certainly makes you a more discerning, critical thinking person because you're able to see things from a lot of different perspectives. But even beyond intellectually, socially, it equips you, right, to be a person who can relate and connect to a variety of different people, no matter their background, no matter their interests. And we believe really strongly that giving you a chance to find that sense of a belonging among a really diverse community doesn't just like set you up for success in a practical way. It just changes you down to your soul. And that's something we care deeply about in our community. So I wanted to make sure we talked a little bit about that today, because at least from our perspective, we think that, even if you're very strongly academically motivated and that's what got you here, the next 4 or 5 years of your life at university are about more than your studies. It's about becoming the person you want to be and building the life that you want. And a big piece of that for us in DCC is giving you a community that's going to be supportive for that journey, for that process. Okay. So we are going to open it up to questions now for you. Before we go to questions, actually, I'm going to put this up now. I can also put it up again at the very end. But if you want to take a quick note, if you want to take a screenshot or take a photo right now, just some contact information for you. Our DCC website has a lot of information, so if you haven't perused it already, please do. Our mission is on there. We really want you to pay attention to the mission as well as our information about admissions. We provided like a series of hypothetical questions you can ask yourself on the admissions page. to figure out whether or not DCC might be a good fit for you, right? Reading our mission will also help. You can also poke around and see like our teaching philosophy, our statement of values. Again, those things will be really helpful in determining whether or not this is the right community, the right program for who you are and where you're going. Okay. Our Instagram is UMD_DCC, and you can reach us at dcc-honors@umd.edu. Right. And those are the easiest ways to contact us if you have questions as you're making these decisions. If you want to be connected with current students or alumni to talk to them and get the student take beyond the honors ambassadors you're about to meet right now. So again, we can share this information later, but if you want to, go ahead and take a screenshot or go ahead and take a photo of it right now so you have it for later. Okay. So I'll give you a minute to do that, and then I'll take you, I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen because I would like to turn it over to our honors ambassadors just to introduce themselves. I believe we have 5 of them here in the room with us tonight from a bunch of different classes, which is cool. So let me go ahead and stop sharing. After our honors ambassadors introduce themselves, we'll go ahead and just open up to questions from the group, okay? Don't be shy. Bryant is the first honors ambassador on my screen. So Bryant, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Bryant. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm a junior majoring in middle school math and science education and minoring in disability studies. And I was part of the MU class. So that means I was in DCC from 2021 to 2023. I completed my capstone 2 semesters ago.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bryant. Really appreciate it. I think Leia's next on my screen.
Hey everyone, my name's Leia. My pronouns are she, her. I am a sophomore in the new class right now, and I am studying bioengineering.
Thanks, Leia. It's so good to see you. I haven't seen you since December. Casalia is next on my screen.
Hi, my name's Casalia and I use she, her pronouns. I'm a sophomore in the new class and I'm studying public health science on the pre-dental track. And right now I'm in my capstone class.
Casalia, it blows my mind that you're a sophomore. For some reason, I think because you've been so involved in honors ambassadors activities, I feel like you're a seasoned vet at this point. Amanda.
Hi, my name is Amanda. I'm a sophomore in a part of the new class. So I'm currently working on my capstone and in the capstone class, and my major is finance in the business school.
Thank you, Amanda. And our last honors ambassador, I believe, is here with us tonight is Brenda.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brenda. I'm a junior studying government politics, and I was in the MU class.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brenda. I could go and do this for everybody, but before I forget, Brenda also has served as a TA, a teaching assistant for DCC as well. So if anyone's curious, that just reminds me, we can talk about like some of the opportunities our alumni have once they become juniors and seniors to kind of stay connected to the program, if that's of interest to anybody. All right. So now that our honors ambassadors have introduced themselves, actually, I do. Damon, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Hi, I'm Damon Pfister. I'm the director of DCC. I've just started this year. This has been my first year. So in so many ways, I'm still figuring it all out. But I can tell you that it is an inspirational community. And we'd love to have many of you in it. So I'll let the honors ambassadors and Dr. Liu answer questions. So we've got a bunch of questions that might be good starting points for conversation. Perhaps some of the honors ambassadors want to jump in there in a minute. But Dr. Liu, I might throw it back to you and ask this second question from Parthov: what do you value when choosing students? Might be something that would fall into your bucket.
Yeah, like I said, so I'll start there, right? And I'll also give our honors ambassadors a chance to look at the Q&A too, because they're going to be able to answer, especially what drew you to DCC, which is a question from Matthew. But the question of what do you value when choosing students, I do want to be as honest and forthcoming as I can with you. During the admissions process, right, you have the chance to fill out your preferencing form, right? Some of you might have already filled it out because you're able to submit already, and you have a couple more weeks to do so, right? While you're still making your decisions about learning about the different LLPs and trying to rank them in order, that sort of thing, right? But you do want to take that preferencing process seriously. Part of preferencing is to rank the programs, right? And you also have a chance on that form to write a little paragraph about why you're drawn to each of those programs. Take that paragraph really, really seriously, right? Particularly for the programs you really, really are hoping to be invited to, okay? We look at that paragraph really closely, but it's not the only other thing we look at. We also look at your entire application to the University of Maryland. We see everything on your application, including your essay, including your answers to those short questions like, what did you do last Thursday or something like that, right? We see all the courses that you've taken throughout high school, and we also see, of course, all your extracurriculars. The things we're looking for in a DCC student are not, so I will say, we don't look at your GPA in DCC. It's not something we consider. We also do not look at your test scores, okay? It's just not something we care particularly about. We care about whether or not you as a person have intentionally carved out space in your life to create, to make, to build, to innovate, right? So that thing that's already set us apart as an LLP, the reason it set us apart as an LLP is because we have literally gone and found those students. We have found those students every year in the Honors College that approach the world as a place for them to make a real contribution. And we look for students who have already begun to show that promise, okay? So like in your courses, for example, we really hope to see coursework from you in high school where you weren't just kind of knocking off required courses, right? But you were taking courses maybe in photography or studio art or in graphic design where you have actually started to show some sort of creative impulse, okay? We look for that also in your extracurriculars. I will say, because it's really competitive in the past few years, you might say, you know, I'm really into arts and music. I play in the band. That's fantastic. But I also want to point out, well, like a lot of students have played in the band or in the orchestra. And so a lot of times we'll look for the extracurriculars for among students who have kind of taken a little bit further. They also arrange their own music. They do their own composing, right? They're in bands separate from school, right? Or in their musical ensemble separate from the ones they're in school. When we're looking for the essay, we usually are looking for indicators that you care about being a part of an inclusive community, or that you try to reach across borders and boundaries to make connections with people who are different than you. We look for signs that you appreciate experimentation, right? That you're open to trying new things and meeting people that are different than you. So because of who we are as an academic community and as a social community, we actually pour through your application pretty closely, right? So we're looking for students that bring to our community the same values that we're hoping to cultivate, as well as that strong creative impulse to make positive, really impactful contributions in the world by really actively seizing upon opportunities you have to become creative, to become a maker, to build and to innovate. I hope that makes sense. Yeah. So I see that there's some more questions added. I want our honors ambassadors to be able to jump in. So Matthew's question here says, what drew you to DCC? Are any of our honors ambassadors willing to share?
I can go. So the two things that come to mind were definitely the values. DCC has always been incredible with showing their values first. And I think that was a community that I really saw myself fitting in. And also just the space to be creative and explore. I think something I have from wanting to be an educator is understanding that education system really doesn't give you the space to explore and find the things that you're truly interested in, or really appreciate the different types of thinking. That is that space that DCC offers to everyone. You get to explore whatever you want through a creative lens. And I think that was just the perfect fit for me.
Thanks, Brian. Do any of other HAs want to weigh in on what drew you to DCC?
I can add a little bit. Oh, sorry. Okay. Adding on to what Brian said, like, on top of just the people being amazing and all sharing this ideology of loving to be creative and be makers, DCC also has a lot of resources that you can help just to find in your free time to relax or to work on individual projects related to DCC or outside. DCC has a makerspace, which is really fun. It has a lot of different resources that you can go to, and it's open twice a week for a lot of hours. And it also has a sound studio. And even just using the professors as a resource was something that I found really useful in DCC and something that drew me in because, you know, you can use them as a resource both in DCC and outside just to talk to as a mentor. And that's something that really drew me in.
Thank you, Leah. Brenda, you wanted to add on?
Yeah, I was just going to say, as a government and politics major, a lot of my coursework is a lot of reading, a lot of writing, a lot of analyzing. So I chose DCC because I wanted kind of an escape from that. I love government politics, but I also have a creative side. In high school, I was in yearbook, and I really, really enjoyed that. So I got really excited when DCC was talking, when I was joining DCC and they talked about the capstone and how you could do whatever you wanted. And I ended up doing something similar to like the yearbook stuff that I did. And I did like a magazine. And it was a really good like creative outlet for me. And it was during a semester where I had really hard classes. So I was able to do a capstone, which was a huge project. And it took a lot of work, but it was really fun in the process as well.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Brenda. There's another question that might kind of approach this from a different, so before is what kind of drew you in, but now being in DCC or for some of you out of DCC, Kayla asks, what are your favorite experiences that you have gained from DCC?
So I can share for myself, probably my favorite experiences from DCC have been the social events that have been put on by our student group called Stuco, which is a group of 10 students, one from the current year of first years and the second years coming together and planning events. And we've had stuff like s'mores nights, we've had events where we can all come together and just get to know one another and truly just share our experiences and get to know as first years, the second years, and the second years get to learn the first years. And I remember just creating some really strong bonds during my first year of being at DCC. So that's probably one of the best experiences. And also being able to gather together and share currently what we're doing with each other's capstones to kind of push ourselves to continue going through the semester of reaching the end goal of capstone. So that's mine.
That actually, so feel free if there's anyone else that wants to jump in, but there was a question and now disappeared. I don't know where it went, but someone asked about the residence hall. So I'll let you guys talk about P. Freddy. But they asked about, are there any events specific in the residence hall? And I will say, like Amanda said, our student council, SUCO, they plan the events that they happen in Prince Frederick. So they're usually in one of the lounges on the second or third floor. So it's really accessible for our students. Damon and I have never been up there. We have no desire to be up there. We're not even allowed to be up there. But student council does all our student community events. They do at least once a month, sometimes two. And those are upstairs in the residence hall. So it's right where the students live. And it's totally a student only environment. So you're hanging out and like just doing so beyond the classroom and without any sort of like visibility of staff or faculty. So it's literally just, like Amanda said, it's laid back, you're relaxed, you're just connecting and you're having fun together, right? So it's not just all, oh, we're to classes together. It's Stuco plans those building events, in addition to events that are sometimes planned by the resident assistants, the RAs in the residence halls as well. Yeah. Did anyone else want to share favorite experiences that they've gained from DCC?
I can share on that. I really like, something I really like about DCC is that we have professors come in from other departments to come teach some of our core classes. So one of my favorite experiences was taking my class last semester with Dr. Lothian. She's from the WGSS department, and she taught queer media practices course. And that was really interesting because I am a research assistant in a social justice lab when I study heterosexism. And so I learned a lot of stuff in her class that kind of related to the research that I'm doing outside of like my major and outside of DCC. And it was really fun to also meet people that were also interested in the same topics as me. And it was just really great to learn from a professor who is in a different department than I am, because I kind of see the same stuff as a public health major, kind of see the same science classes. So I got to see something really different. I also really enjoyed meeting a lot of people in DCC. So my roommate, who I don't live in Prince Frederick this year, but I'm still really close friends with my roommate from last year, and I really enjoyed living in Prince Frederick. So
I'm sure you all have more questions about the dorm. Real quick, Castalia mentioned the faculty from other departments. So for those of you who haven't yet learned this about the university, you will. One of the things about a large university is sometimes like tenured professors don't teach freshman, sophomore classes. There are some majors where you'll never meet a tenured professor because they're doing a lot of research. They're not in the classroom as often. And even if you do have the chance to work with tenured professors, right? Sometimes you're locked out of a major, like the 300 and 400 levels that the tenured professors teach, because you're not a student in that major. So you might have to be a public health major in order to take a class with a public health professor, right? Whereas like Castalia said, DCC brings in faculty from those other departments. So you don't have to be a WGSS student to take a class with a tenured WGSS professor. And if you've never been in the university environment before at a large research university, you might not realize that that's how it works. But yeah, we love that we can bring those professors into DCC spaces for students who wouldn't otherwise ever be able to get their classes or meet them or be able to work with them. So I know some folks might want to ask about the residence halls. There's some other questions coming in. There was one that went away, but it was actually really interesting. Someone wanted to hear from an honors ambassador what a bad day in DCC is like. Because obviously a lot of times you guys are sharing good things. Has anyone had like a really bad day in DCC that they are willing to share?
Let me just pipe in quick and say some of these questions are disappearing because I'm typing answers to them. You're seeing it. And I posited that a bad day at DCC would be if someone pulled the fire alarm. But there's probably a second worst day. I'd love to hear from some of the honors ambassadors what that looks like.
I did trigger one of the door alarms in the multi-purpose room one day, and I couldn't get it to turn off, so we just went outside. But I got locked out of my office all the time. Those are my worst days in DCC. Have any of you guys had a bad day in DCC that you're willing to share?
I mean, I think it's just part of the college experience. College or classes can sometimes get a little bit stressful, especially if you procrastinate. There can be hard weeks while you're making your capstone proposal or actually working on your capstone, and that's just due to procrastination. However, the nice thing is that a bad day in DCC, I feel like can't last too long because you're living with your friends. You always have access to Dr. Liu or Dr. Pfister or just any of the great professors. So it's like, yes, of course, there are going to be bad days just because it's college, but there's a great support system that I feel like is always there for you, regardless, through either office hours, an email, or even just the person next door.
I can definitely say I've had some students clearly having bad days in my student hours, and they've been in my office, and my office always stacked with tissues and all sorts of stuff to make you feel better. So I know you all do have bad days because, like Bryant said, I mean, college is not just like fun all the time. You're stressed. You got a lot going on. But yeah, we do try to extend resources as best we can and our support and whatever we can, just knowing that, yeah, you're gonna have some bad days. And Capstone is a good one to point out because as fun as it's to do a project on your own, it's stressful to do a project on your own, especially when you care deeply about it. You want to make it great. And sometimes you run up against obstacles and stuff like that, but it's all part of the process. Yeah. So Gretchen has a question here. The program is 2 years. Are there any association with the programs in years 3 and 4? So like I mentioned, Brenda has been a TA. Bryant comes back and teaches 2 workshops with us this year. So for my 2 alumni in the room, are you willing to talk about some of the opportunities to kind of stick with DCC as a junior and senior?
Sure, I can chime in. Yeah, I mentioned you can be a TA, you can teach a workshop. The 2 workshops that I taught or want to teach, the next one. First one was fluid painting and then teaching how to make balloon animals. most DCC events are open to the entire DCC community, not just those in their freshman and sophomore year. Being part of Stuco has also given me just a great relationship with those in the other classes, so I still kind of keep up with them. But yeah, there's always just an opportunity to pull up in DCC. The other great thing is once you have access to the makerspace, being part of DCC, you have access for the rest of the 4 years. So those resources are always accessible to you, regardless of your standing.
Yeah, and as a TA, I was a TA for the Capstone proposal course. So I was helping students brainstorm ideas for their capstone and stuff like that, which was really fun for the students and for me because I was part of the process of all of the students creating their capstones, and they had such great ideas and such unique ideas. And it was really amazing to work with the professor, the instructor. He did a great job. He, you know, involved me in all the lectures and stuff like that. And he was very flexible. But yeah, I think like Brian said, all these opportunities, they're there, and people like Dr. Liu encourage students to come back and keep doing and keep updating us on any opportunities that may arise for people who once we're done our capstones to do after.
Adding on to that, I want to shout out Dr. Liu's newsletter that we get once a month. It gives you a list of all the events that's happening in DCC, and they're always open, and most of them have free food, which is always great when you're an alumni, but there's always an opportunity, and it's always made sure that you're still in the loop even after graduating DCC.
We do try to feed you as much as possible because we know how important it is to you. And also food is deeply important to us. So you'll learn this about Damon if you end up in DCC. Damon is an awesome gardener and also makes like artisan hot sauces. Okay, first of all. And then I just cook and bake constantly. So we care a lot about food in this community. But yeah, Brenda and Bryant just both gave you some options. I'll give you a couple more too as well. So in addition to being a TA or coming back to teach workshops and skills and stuff like that, we also have, so for example, right now, we're in the early stages of our annual design tournament. So every February, March, we have a design tournament for our students to kind of design a new DCC logo for our merchandise for each spring. We do like a spring apparel fundraiser, and we always feature the work of a student. So we have a design tournament. It's set up like an NCAA March Madness bracket. It's single elimination. The community votes anonymously, and they pick a design winner. And the design, you win $250 if you win. And of course, bragging rights. But starting this year, it's open to our alumni too. So our alumni are able to still participate in the design tournament, still go for that money, but also, of course, stay engaged in the community that way. And this is the first year. We also just launched a brand new program in DCC called a Creative in Residence program. A Creative in Residence is an alumni, typically a senior, who's going to come back and spend a year still working with DCC. So it's kind of like Capstone in a different way. They have a creative project of some kind. They work on it all year long. It's a paid position for the entire year. They get to do a creative project using DCC's resources, the makerspace, the sound studio, whatever they want. And they also can assemble a team of current students or other alumni to work alongside them to help them work on their project while they also mentor and teach the skills that they have. So this year, our Creative in Residence his name is Elias. He's an award-winning filmmaker, and he is working with the DCC team right now of current students and alumni to plan, design, execute, and ultimately produce and edit an animated short film. They'll present it in April at our first annual Creative in Residence showcase. So that is kind of the latest and most, I think, kind of most ambitious way to return to DCC is not just to take on another creative project, but to do so in a role of a mentor within the program and working with younger students. So those are other ways you can kind of stay involved in DCC if you wish. But of course, also some people after the second year, they move on. And that's something we encourage too. We want you to use your years 3 and 4 in the best way that suits you. And you've got other things to do. You've got other areas of your life and your academics to explore. And we fully support that as well. We have a question. Do juniors and seniors still have access to the residence hall? Once you are no longer living in the residence hall, you are not allowed to access the residential areas, the lobby, the elevators that go upstairs. Juniors and seniors from DCC still have access to the program spaces. So our makerspace, our DCC offices, and the main classrooms you can still get to, but you cannot access the residence hall because it is a secure building, only available to students who live there. Yeah. And then Ryland's question has been up here for a while. I think Damon has been typing, but Ryland has some experience, obviously in aerospace and or is pursuing aerospace engineering, but then explores creativity in terms of designing cities, architecture. Architecture actually is architecture and urban planning are strong majors within DCC. So even if you are not pursuing those as majors, we have quite a few students who are passionate about that. We actually had a course last fall 2022, called Designing Communities, and it is exactly what Ryland is talking about here. And that also seems like a great thing to explore in a capstone project. Last spring, there was a capstone where they redesigned a city and they actually built a model. I think they reimagined a historic city and redesigned it and built a 3D model of it. So those are a great thing you can, a passion you can explore via capstone or possibly be in a DCC class, depending on what faculty we can bring into the program while you're here. Matthew asked an important question. This might be one of our last questions of the evening as we're running here out of time. Do all students in DCC live in the residence hall for 2 years? We are an LLP that does not require you to live on campus. We also do not require you to live in Prince Frederick Hall. We love our commuter students. We recognize that for a lot of people, living on campus is a privilege financially and otherwise. A lot of folks choose to live at home. A lot of people have obligations to work or family off campus, and so they don't live on campus. And we embrace those folks in DCC. So you are not required to live on campus in order to be in our community. And even if you live on campus, you're not required to live in Prince Frederick Hall. So you can live anywhere you'd like and still be a member of DCC. That's not something we consider. So we hope you'll make the best residential choice for you. Yeah. We might have time for one last quick question. All right, so I want to just remind you that we're here for you throughout this process. Like I said, it's really stressful, can be overwhelming, even as it is very exciting. So congratulations. We're glad you're here and you could learn more about our program and to meet all of us. Like I said, you can get to us very, very easily at DCC Honors at umd.edu, and you can find us on Instagram at UMD DCC. So if you send a message to the DCC Instagram account, I'm going to see it, or our graduate assistant, Jean Choi, is going to see it. And we can get back to you, or of course, you can email us as well. And Chantel has been really wonderful about providing you the rest of the contact information in the chat if you couldn't capture it earlier. Okay, so we'd love to meet with you. We'll have a chat with you if you have more questions, you want to talk directly. If you want to link up with any of our honors ambassadors, we can connect you. And we can also connect you to other students and alumni if you have more questions and want to hear from students directly. Okay. But thank you so much to Chantel, to Jenny, our honors folks, especially to our honors ambassadors. It's so nice to see your face, even just to see you through Zoom. We've missed you very much. We haven't seen you in person. And of course, thank you to our director, Damon, for being here with us as well. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys. So again, this was Design Cultures and Creativity. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to them, or you can reach out to honors admissions at umd.edu. This session was recorded, so you can expect to see it on our main, or you can see it on the DCC page on our main website, which is honors.umd.edu in the coming days. I'll also be sending out an email to you all, directing you to all of the Living Learning Program info session recordings so that you have a chance to review them on your own time. So please don't forget to fill out your program preferencing form that's due February 19th. Remember that completing that preferencing form does not commit you to the university, but it does secure a spot for you in honors should you decide to attend UMD. So thanks again for joining us. We will be having other sessions throughout the week. So I look forward to seeing some of your names tomorrow too. Take care. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone. Good luck.